Hi, you guys. Amanda here with the Make Love Not War Passion Project, and I'm still out to help angry wives and their spouses. Today, we have with us Freddy Weaver. He is the co author together with Elizabeth Moit, and he wrote Sexual Enlightenment, and they have founded the Tantra Nova Institute in Chicago. And you're in Chicago right now?
Yeah, we're in Chicago. It's sunny and cold.
Sunny and cold. Welcome to the show, Freddie. Nice to have you here.
Thank you, Amanda. Great being here.
I'm going to show the map to the viewers. Let's see if I can find. We just interviewed someone in France. Chicago, is it somewhere around here?
Oh, yeah, that's right. Near the lake. Right near the lake.
Perfect.
Just a little over. Yeah, there you go.
I tried to do that when I had your wife on, but.
Yeah, move it a little further to your left.
Okay.
See that little indentation of water? That's the Michigan lake there. So that's where we are.
So we know where we are in the world because we're talking.
Yeah, that's it. Well,
people. Yeah. So thanks. Can you tell the listeners a little bit about your expertise, and especially in relations to making love, not war, and helping angry wives?
Sure, Amanda. Again, thanks for having me on. Well, interesting. There's so many approaches to, finding peace and getting to some sort of resolution in conflict in relationship. Therapy, meditation, walks in the park, retreats and so on. But very few approaches teach how to work consciously with our sexual energy, which is what we do here at Tantra Nova Institute in Chicago and all over the world now.
Wow.
If we think of sexual energy as primordial, essential, without it we wouldn't be here. And the critical elements are creativity, it creates life, and pleasure when it shows up. So what happens with what we teach are distinctions of how to bring consciousness to that sexual aspect of our being, which create more peace and joy in areas of life that seem completely unrelated to sex, just in the simple process of living.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of expanding on that, if you think, again, the sexual energy, whether you're doing our workshop or not, when we're in it, we're more open, loving, vulnerable, receptive. Chemically, we're changed. Oxytocin's released, endorphins, serotonin. So with that being the case, with distinctions of how to be conscious with our breath, move that life force of sexual energy, as well with an intention, like I want to stop arguing or fighting with my spouse, we get more deeply connected to what I call the total felt sense of our story, our emotions, and our chemicals, and all the things that are creating a lot of the disconnect that happens in relationship.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah. Yeah, it is. It is. There are many ways to it. And it's very interesting to this whole aspect of orgasms and the energy and the creative life of the creation of life. And yeah, it's hard to see where that comes in. Do you have any tips or techniques, anything people can do?
Well, absolutely. We start with learning, developing our belly breath. And I believe Elizabeth led you through a belly breath meditation the other day. I could share with you how to bring awareness to our life force or sexual energetic second chakra through a squeeze release practice. So adding or building on the belly breath, if we think of the PC or pubococcygeal muscle that runs around the anus and intersects at the perineum and around the vagina or the base around the penis, like a figure eight, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if your listeners and you and me, we squeeze as if we're cutting off a urination stream and hold that tension, hold it. Now release, okay? So that's what we're going to do. But in addition, we're going to put our mind's focused attention on that sensation or that muscle contraction, the second chakra, or the PC muscle. And as we let go, we're going to bring our awareness to bringing that breath up to our heart, breathing it in, and visualize with attention on the breath and intention to move it up to your heart on the release and the inhalation, okay? So now this is what it'll look like. So we'll squeeze, we'll hold for a while, then we'll let go, and then we'll take a belly breath with our mind's attention and intention on the sensation, moving it up to the heart. Now let's try that together now, okay? So let's squeeze.
Mm-hmm.
Hold, release, take a breath, bring an awareness to that sensation. You'll start to feel a sensation or trickle, and let's try it again. So now let's squeeze, holding the squeeze, hold, keeping the tension, hold as if you're cutting back a urination stream, hold. Now release, breathe into the belly. and you start to begin to have a sense of awareness of that movement of energy. Let's try one more time. So let's squeeze. Let's hold the squeeze. Hold the tension. Hold, hold, hold. Now release. Breathe into the belly. Take a breath. And what happens is we keep building on those kinds of practices. Now, when you couple that practice with orgasmic energy or nectar, then it's very visceral, and you really have a capacity to really start working with what I call the systemic intelligence of this energy, which is that creativity and pleasure, which then gives us a space from a lot of the disconnect and upset. So forever we've been procreating, with this energy, sexual energy, creating life, right? The last 100 or so years recreating with the development of contraceptives. Now what we're sharing and teaching in our book and in our workshops is how to co-create with this creative energy. I know some people go, oh, that sounds a little woo-woo, but what's really woo-woo is single-cell amoebas, multi-cell organisms, a universe that goes on for ad infinitum. That's science, and that's our lineage. So again, this energy was creating life before we were aware of our own existence. So what we're really starting to do is use our intelligence to how to glean some of the intelligence from that energy.
Great. Wow. Interesting.
Mm.
A lot to think about.
Yeah. So what we've done here at Tantra Nova is we've taken approaches to transformation from the West in terms of generative language, how we create our reality in language, and creative self-discovery, how we discover ourselves in the creative process and movement and dance and art, coupled with some of the approaches of the tantric or Eastern approaches to transformation. Tantra was one of the original yogas of the energetic body. So we're working with the pranayama, the breath. We're working with awareness of energy. We're working with centers and energy centers in the body, all in service of getting to the aspects of ourselves that are not taking total responsibility for everything in our life. Because there's this big mind that we are, right? We're this big brain thinking Homo sapiens, been figuring out the universe for millennia. And the mind doesn't stop. We can learn how to watch our thinking, and from that place, live into what we will to create. So if I'm willing and wanting to create, peace in my relationship, but it seems impossible because my total felt sense, my energy, my heart, my palpitations, my sweatiness, all the stuff is angry and disconnected, then to have a practice that can find some peace with that and then start moving towards what it is I want to create. And that's where I think we're in our goddess and God divinity when we're in our creative selves, which is really, when you think about sexual energy as creative, that's it right there.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's really interesting. So do you have any tips for the guys out there if they want to calm their angry wife? Is there anything you can recommend them, or just something that if they know this, maybe they'll be better in that situation where they don't understand her, why she's mad, why she's so angry all the time?
Well, there's nothing really one of the things we can do as the spouse, the man or the woman, is to learn to be with their anger. How can I be with someone's upset without feeling like I got to make it right or fix it or be upset by myself or take on whatever they're feeling? How can we find some stillness and peace to listen to the other's requests or concerns and then share, and that's what I could say to someone or any guy is how can you develop practices that can allow ourselves to be with someone else's upset without getting upset ourselves.
Yeah. Have anything you can do for that?
Yeah. Well, one of the things is the belly breath that Elspeth shared yesterday.
Yeah.
The other is this squeeze release practice. And we teach in our seminars and in my men's workshop, I teach a self-love practice or a sexual meditation practice, which teaches the men how to begin to separate ejaculation from orgasm. And you might sound, well, that's just going to make you a better lover or whatever. Well, yeah, that too. And for a lot of guys, they can last as long as they want sexually without having an orgasm. But consciously breathing and moving and circulating our energy is another level. So learning to integrate some of the foundational meditative awareness practices that we kind of started with Elspeth's interview with you and with this squeeze release practice begins to give us a deeper sense of starting to step away from a lot of the automatic storytelling that we do with ourselves that creates oftentimes the upset or the disconnect. to then live into what it is I really want to create with my life or in this relationship. And that's for guys what they can start to do. Now we have online programs, we have books, we have tapes, we travel with our workshops. And this is how guys in the men's workshop can get involved, or couples in our most of our Spark workshops, or in Elsbeth's Women's Series. So there's lots of ways that they can get involved and learn how to be
online.
Yeah, online or in person. We do come to Europe from time to time. We travel around the United States. So, or come to Chicago.
Yeah,
it's kind of cold. It's kind of cold now, but we'll warm you up.
I'm used to that. It's also very cold and filled with ice here. That's why I went into the water this morning just to wake up.
Wow, that's really something. Do you wear a wetsuit when you do that?
No, and I was actually sliding because it was so slippery. So I was crawling on the rocks, bare-butted. Really.
Wow, you are a hardy person. That's really great. But that's what keeps you alive, is that kind of wake up. You know, Elspeth takes cold showers all the time. I've kind of eased into it, but yeah.
I love the sunny, and I love the west coast of the U.S. and nice warm weather in Africa. But the only good thing about the cold is those really, really intensifying dips in the ocean. So.
Yes. Amanda, can I ask you what moved you to start this work?
Finding
what you're doing now with me, with your podcast, with your work that you're doing.
There's a personal story to it as well. My mom passed away, so I started thinking about, I had a software company before and did business in a whole other way, very masculine, basic approach, profit, you know. And then I started searching within myself, and I found myself so many times, and my mother as well, just consumed with anger and hate towards the people we love the most, my children and my husband. So me, and I could just see, okay, we're making war again when we should be making love. There's a path where there's somewhere where I don't create in that moment what I want to create, and I end up, you know, making war. And it was so clear that it was war instead of love, because if we just made the love, we wouldn't make the war, and we were making the war because we wanted to make love. And that's really what we were screaming at each other. So being in that situation so many times was really like, so when I dug down deep and saw, what have the universe thrown at me many times? You know, what should I work with? Make love, not war. And that seemed to be the, you know, answer to my life. So
wow. Well, you know, you probably are helping a lot of people who are in the same situation, because we oftentimes will live out what we experienced in our early life as, you know, young adults in our family, you know, and families can be crazy, you know, lots of fighting. And then the whole process of just the civilizing process from, you know, infants to young people to teenagers and all of that. So we're like a encapsulation of everything we've ever experienced our whole life. So to create something new, you know, where there's been so much fighting and arguing and learning in our lives, requires us to let go of everything we know. And a lot of what we know, we aren't even aware of that we know.
Yeah.
So meditation is really key. And then again, working with what we see as a real doorway to really intimately getting to and changing and shifting so much are the sexual meditation practices and rituals that we teach in Tantra Nova, or Tantra Nova.
Yeah, because it seems you're in that moment with your kids or your husband, mostly kids in that moment, and then you want to create something good, but they just keep you like, if you had a little more energy, strength, I could just turn this situation so it'd be positive without fighting and screaming, and just that extra strength to kind of, and my husband has that with the kids, complete calmness and Buddha-like nature.
Oh, wow.
So,
that's great. Well, you make a good pair then. He helps to calm you if you're upset, and vice versa, huh?
We're complete opposites. He's like, you're so stressful, you're so relaxed. If I don't stress, I think your heart is going to stop beating.
It's kind of like teachers. You know how teachers often teach the thing they most need to learn? We often attract the people we most need to learn from.
Definitely. It's just an amazing enigma, and it's really intriguing, this whole love thing, with real love and with war. And it's quite a journey. I'm happy to be
You know, but it is interesting that, you know, in the world, there has been such vilification around the sexual self. And we're at a time now with the internet that pornography is so prevalent and available to people. It's almost like we're overdoing it to the point where a lot of young men are actually becoming impotent for a little while because they've overstimulated their penis so much, or their, what we call lingam, which is the Sanskrit term for penis. It means wand of light.
Yeah.
Much more endearing than dickhead, you know. So,
yeah.
So, but so it's a time when there's an opportunity for a expansion of consciousness around our sexual selves. It's like, I feel, and Elspeth and I both are in agreement with this, that it's the next spiritual quantum leap that humanity really is required to make if we're to continue to exist. Because if we stay in the male angry energy, which is not creative and positive, then we will destroy ourselves. And so this is a time in really the human history that we can start to glean some consciousness from this, what I call systemic intelligence of sexual energy, which is love, it's creative, and it's pleasurable. Now, when it shows up outside of the bedroom, it doesn't seem like it's sexual. Yet that was around long before. And anything, if you think of it as so primordial, that anything really creative or pleasurable could be considered sexual. And what's interesting is when you bring consciousness again to the sexual in the way that we teach it, creativity and pleasure start showing up in areas of life that seem completely unrelated to sex in the simple process of living.
Yeah, kind of like Jesus Christ in a way. The whole
Well, yeah. The whole idea of Jesus Christ, absolutely. I think we're all, gods and goddesses in our own right if we think of, what we're capable of in terms of our consciousness and what's possible.
Yeah, and it does really change your life. And you can't be successful in other areas of your life if your love life is not working. You need to walk that walk, I think.
Yeah, and it starts with self. Oftentimes we think we need to fall in love or we have to have somebody else to complete us. But when we start working with sexual energy consciously, like in a self-love practice, we can start to attract and create happiness from within. And then that creates and brings on what really is not just desired, but is required in terms of your own fulfillment in whatever it is you're about and creating in your life.
And that's a good point to the angry wives. You don't have to include your husband, just start yourself. You can fix the whole thing within yourself and your own journey to be happy. And once you're there, the world around you will change. So you don't need to wait on him. You don't need to involve him if he doesn't want to. Just go ahead and do these steps.
Yeah, it starts with self, and then everyone else will follow. If they're really, enrolled with you and they want the relationship, then they will make the changes in themselves to keep it going.
Yeah, totally agree. Okay, any other things you have for?
Well, just when we get to Norway, we'll look you up. If you get to Chicago, please come and visit with us. And hopefully we'll do something online again. Elspeth's going to come in. She's here, my partner, Elspeth.
Hi, Elspeth. How are you?
Hi, Amanda. Wow, how great we're here together.
Yeah, good to see you guys together. Great couple.
Yeah.
Queen. She looks really great. Good to meet you too, Freddy.
Yeah, so great.
I like what you said yesterday, Elspeth, about falling in love. We're really falling. So that was a good point.
Yes.
Thought of it.
Creating.
Yeah.
Yes.
You guys have some amazing insights.
Yeah, thanks so much for having us both on in the same picture.
Yeah.
And we just thought we would use this opportunity to now, given that, you and the listeners have seen us separate with our own, little spiel, each of us, now actually how we can bring this in a very practical way that make love, not war, in the moment, in the relationship. This is really where the rubber meets the road. We can talk about it and then we can breathe and learn to manage and master our own emotions. And there's one practice we would like to share that couples can really take into their relationship right away. Would that be okay?
Yeah. Please.
Yeah? Okay, great. So the beauty of the tantric practice the tantric meditation practices, that we can meditate together. Most meditation practices are solo practices. However, the tantric practice allows to meditate together, and it has something to do with synchronizing our breath. So when we synchronize our breath, we actually become one breath, so to speak. It's in the experience. And so we thought we would demonstrate a quick exercise that either whoever is watching as a couple, you can do it right with us, or if you're by yourself, show it to your husband or your wife or your partner. Once you leave this summit session here, and do it with them. It's most effective. So we place one hand, in this case, it's our left hand. I hope you can see us here.
It's on.
Yeah, but then she cannot. So anyway, so we look into each other's eye.
Left eye.
Left eye.
So
Can
you
you say
wink.
something about the left eye?
Yeah, so the left eye is a receptive center of the brain, as opposed to we're right-handed, left-handed people. So, we want to start to, tap into the listening part of ourselves, right? The receptive.
Yeah. And if you're left-handed, it's the right eye, right?
Right.
Yes.
Well, yeah.
I look with both eyes into Freddy's left eye, and he looks with both eyes into my left eye.
Mm-hmm.
So then the hand on the chest between the breasts. So we call this the heart center, where we experience love and compassion. And then we breathe in together. Do you want to lead it on?
Yeah, breathe in together and then breathe out together. Gazing into each other's left eye. Now we're kind of co-centering. And we're dropping out of the story, the monkey mind, the conversation, interpretation, or meaning. Just gazing, touching, breathing, and being. That's all there is for a few moments. And you have to train your mind to kind of let go of bringing meaning to everything and overthinking. And then you start to kind of do what we did earlier, where you visualize receiving energy from the hand on the heart into your heart. On the exhalation, you visualize with your mind's focused attention and intention on the sensation and breath, sending into the other's heart on the exhalation. Receiving on the inhalation, sending on the exhalation. Right? And what happens when you stay with this for a bit is you start to get away from whatever the disconnect or story might be, or if you're just going off in a calm way before your days start separately, it gives you a sense of connection and a sense of oneness. And that can really go a long way in staying connected in your day with your partner and with yourself.
That's lovely. That's such a great idea. If you're fighting so much that you're not communicating, or if every time you try to say something you start fighting, you just do that because there's no words that can be.
It's great. You have to get buy-in though, because when you're often upset, you don't want to touch anybody. But if you kind of like both agreed when you're in your sane, calm moments, then each of you can stop for a moment and give that a chance. Yeah. We would love to come to Norway and do a workshop.
It's great. I hate to say this, but I'm in Denmark. It's very close by.
Oh, Denmark, but that's even better. That's great. We'll be there.
Okay, so let's just go back one more time to the practice that everybody gets a sense of what the key ingredients are. So it is this facing of each other, placing the hand on each other's heart center. And the key here is the synchronized breath. Mm-hmm. Because that is where we feel, oh yeah, I'm listened to. And the heart is the reconciler. It's between the upper energy centers, 3 energy centers up that are connecting us with our spiritual heavenly self. Mm-hmm. And then 3 centers below the heart center that are our earthly being, our physical, our sexual, our power being. And the heart center is really when I listen from my heart to Freddy, then I truly listen. Most of the time I listen from here when I'm angry. I can feel it in my stomach and I'm arguing that I'm right. Internally or externally, they say, no, you are really wrong and I'm right. Yeah, that is what all fighting is about. And so anyway, we step out of that. And what Freddy said, what's crucial, he calls it the buy-in, it's the prior agreement that when we are disconnected, when we are in a fight or have some conflict, misunderstandings, that instead of keeping talking, which is not going to change anything at that moment, is to shift, like recalibrate. And this is a perfect practice. However, it requires willingness. You can imagine, Amanda.
Yeah, you don't do it while you fight, but if you don't want to try to communicate because you seem to fail or just, I don't know, I don't communicate in words very well with my husband. We just hug. And so I think that's a much better approach for us because for some reason our words just end up hurting each other and we say better things without them. So.
Yeah, you figured that out. Good.
And then being in that space of heart-to-heart breathing and heart-to-heart listening, it's the love center. From that place, we then can start listening and speaking, but we are in a different place then. So that's just a little gift. And you know, I shared yesterday that following the interview will be a free gift, which is, it was yesterday, Secrets to Lasting Intimacy.
Yeah.
And that will be, you know, we will, or we are further explaining and offering practices to cultivate this state of being. Mm-hmm. And then we thought perhaps, Amanda, if you like Freddy to give a gift to the guys, yeah. I think many women may like that, for their guy to cultivate their connection with their power, where they are in their power versus having to exert their power, where they are strong in their manhood and where they can channel their sexual energy, because that makes them available to the beloved, to the woman. And I mean, there's so much more that we could share about, like the differences between, you know, masculine and feminine sexual energy. You want me to say briefly something about it?
Sure.
Okay, great. So here's the thing, when Freddy speaks about channeling that energy, you know, he spoke about earlier, it's like, here's the thing, that male sexual energy rises quickly, gets easily excited and drops quickly. Feminine energy rises slowly, you know, hangs out, is capricious. We don't know if it's coming or going. However, when it's awakened, it can come up to a plateau and stay on the plateau for a long time. Multiple orgasms, you know, orgasmic waves, or just being in the orgasmic flow. So here is what often happens. It definitely happened to me. In my younger years, it was like this. He came and went while I was hanging out there, you know. And so when the man learns to channel his energy, he is actually able to sustain and meet her on the plateau, so we can dance together. Now, the plateau doesn't have to be a level 9 on a scale from 1 to 10, 10 being the ejaculatory moment. It could be a 2, a 5, whatever. The purpose here is to dance together. It's not reaching the goal, because then, you know, it's just for the sake of the goal. It's the dance together that we want to cultivate. And so what Freddy shares in this gift that he's going to give, yeah?
What is the gift?
Oh, yeah, the download of the Sustaining Masculine
Okay,
Pleasure.
Great. Oh, yes. Very good. Glad to offer that.
So the guys, you can practice this. And if you are here as a woman, give it to your guy. You know, he will thank you and you will thank him.
Yeah, that is I think that's the best place and best way to do couples therapy. For me and my husband, words, they don't work. Body language, and that works better. So
yeah.
Those of you who feel the same,
the deeper listening. Yes, it's a deeper listening for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much, guys.
Thanks, Amanda.
And I think it's great advice, and I love that it's different than all the others. So thank you so much, you guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.